friends, thank you for joining me again today. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Krista. I live in the desert with my husband and 2 kids, soon to be 3 in October, and I just really enjoy sharing different homemaking things. So thanks for joining me today. It's fun to see the community kind of growing and stuff. It's always fun to see new subscribers come and join. So if you haven't already and you're interested in this kind of content, I would love it if you went ahead and subscribe to our channel. It's always fun interacting with you guys in the comments. So thank you for commenting, and I hope you enjoy the following cooking video. If you find it interesting or helpful to watch these kinds of videos, feel free to check out other playlists that I've put together. If you're anything like me, I really enjoy watching these kinds of videos while I'm doing housework and stuff. So feel free to scroll through the playlist and pick and choose and skip and whatever. I just hope that it's refreshing or encouraging to you as a fellow homemaker. It's been a little bit since I did just a cooking video, and there were a bunch of things that I needed to put together, so thought why not go ahead and just capture that for this week's video. I did a bunch of different things, from making up a batch of sourdough bread. I know you've seen me do that a bunch of times, but it was high time to make another batch of bread. Then I made a broccoli, cheese, and bacon salad, and I did a bunch of other things. So anyways, I hope you find this interesting and enjoy watching. We really like doing homemade bread because it saves a fair bit of money from having to buy store-bought bread. Plus, there's not a lot of good options out there really for bread anymore. I used to buy Pepperidge, their sprouted bread, which was really delicious, but some reason they discontinued it, which is really sad. So I've just been making my own using this honey oat recipe, which I know I've shared before in the past, but it's one of those where it's really good, and I found a version where it makes 5 loaves. So that's what I do every couple weeks, and then once the bread's done, cooled, I'll slice it and stick it in the freezer. So then I'm not making bread every single week, but it lasts us a while. We're one of those families where we have sandwiches for lunch almost every day. You do different types of fillings, but for the most part, if you were to come over here for lunch during the week, you would most likely see me making some sort of peanut butter and honey or for the kids, or some sort of like meat and cheese sandwich. Our favorites are grilled cheese. I really have to watch it though, because I'm trying to not do a ton of that, but that's definitely something this pregnancy that I have thoroughly enjoyed. I always try to put a good lettuce salad next to it, so I'm not just eating a whole bunch of carbs and fats, which aren't necessarily bad, but it's just, everything in moderation, wanting to give my body some good veggies. Usually I have to pull the dough out of the KitchenAid because it's not powerful enough to mix the dough. It gets to a certain point and then the KitchenAid just stops. So one of these days I'll have to maybe see if I can save up a little extra cash to buy a Bosch, which it may take me a couple years, but that's the kind of machine ideally I'd love to get at one point, because those are more geared toward bread making. They're much more heavy duty, and I'm afraid I'm going to burn up the motor in my KitchenAid. So I got to be careful with that. Anyways. When it comes to spreadable butter, I realistically could just leave a stick of butter out or something, which sometimes I will do, but I didn't grow up doing that, and so sometimes to me the thought of having butter sitting out in the open on the counter is kind of, I don't know, a little bit gross. I know you can get butter dishes, but still, just having it out. So anyways, I like to take the butter and soften it and then add in a little bit of olive oil, and then that makes it really nice and spreadable. Because like I said, we have a lot of sandwiches, and so we use a good bit of, butter for the sandwiches. And so this way, I know I've got a good bit of butter I can pull out of the fridge, and it's not rock hard. It makes it fairly easy to spread. So it was time to refill my butter container, so I had more for the next time we made sandwiches. One thing that really helps when it comes to working in the kitchen is to make sure that I'm doing dishes as I'm baking. Now, there are times where I've got to get stuff in the oven or get things going so it can be sitting. And in this situation, though, I just wanted to keep the kitchen sink from getting filled too much. So I was like, as I went along, I tried to do better at cleaning things out as I was done with them, so that things just wouldn't collect and then get overwhelming, because that's no fun. Especially being pregnant, I get tired a lot faster, and so the last thing I want is to start a big cooking project and then get tired as I'm finishing, and then still have a whole kitchen of dishes or counter of dishes and stuff to clean. Here you get a little glimpse into our grocery haul. I'm really thankful that we can do grocery pickup, because sometimes there are days where I gotta choose housework or groceries, in the sense that I can't go and pick up the groceries for the week and come back home and do the housework. So on this particular day, it was really, really helpful to be able to just go in and get the order loaded up. I'm very grateful for it for that reason. We're totally out of the range of any sort of grocery drop off or whatever. We can't do any of that, any Instacart or anything like that, but I am grateful that I can just go sit in the car and have them loaded up. I'm not going to complain about that. So for those of you in the US, we just had our 4th of July celebration, and I had wanted to make some sort of dessert for a church picnic we were going to go to, and I could not decide for the life of me what to make. My dad had been staying with us for the last week or so, helping out with a work project, and so I've been making all kinds of desserts left and right because there's another person to eat them, which has been really, really fun. But I felt like it was time to make something that wasn't quite as heavy, and I came across this one in the cookbook. It was a chocolate cake with a strawberry frosting, and I was like, it looked perfect. It was a lighter dessert, and so I thought, hey, let's give it a try. So I'm going to show you here how I did it. I obviously can't share the recipe for copyright reasons, but you can see one of the main ingredients was black beans, which was always very interesting. The trick to this one is making it the day ahead, so that way the cake can sit in the fridge and then it does something to the texture and the flavors. It just makes it taste a whole lot better. So I made sure to make this the day ahead of when I needed to serve it, and then it was really, really yummy. One thing I've been thinking about is the whole thing of how do you decide when you're going to eat off plan? As in, when are you going to decide, like, for some people they would say, oh, this day I'm going to cheat, or I'm going to eat real healthy, and then this day I'm going to go off plan and eat whatever I want. And it's kind of interesting because I was in a group where that was a big thing, and it really got to me after a while because I guess I don't want to have the mentality that I'm going to eat healthy only to go and eat a whole bunch of junk food, because I feel like that doesn't set you up for success. So it's been kind of interesting this pregnancy because I found myself really, really, really wanting junk food like I've never craved it before. And it's really bizarre because my other pregnancies, I didn't have the same desires. It's like I would get fixated on junk food. I don't know, maybe I've talked about this already in the past, but I actually did get somebody to help me with that, and I found it seems like when I'm at home, things are harder than when we're out and about. Like when we go out to eat dinner somewhere, it's really easy just to, skip the bun on the hamburger or whatever. That's no problem or whatever. But when we're at home, if we have junk food around the house, that's when it's a real challenge to not get into it, to not eat it. Now, I could totally eat it and it probably wouldn't hurt me that much, but I tend to gain a lot of weight during pregnancies, even when I'm trying to eat well. So because of that, it's extra motivating for me to not indulge on, sugary food or junk food or stuff that's got processed flours. Anyways, that being said, there are times occasionally where my husband and I, one thing we do when we go to one of the major cities close to us to go get hardware stuff, we'll often go and stop by Cold Stone. Sometimes I will go by Starbucks and I'll figure out something there that's for the most part on plan. But there are times where my husband enjoys it when I get ice cream along with him. And so I'm like, you know what? Just gonna enjoy a bowl of ice cream and not gonna worry about it and stuff. But there is a point where it's like you just got to be careful, because I don't want it to turn into like a habit where in the evenings all I want to do is eat his ice cream, which I've been trying to get back into doing, the whole yogurt and peanut flour, stevia, chocolate chip, kind of a little, not a parfait, but something like that. Anyways, those are really good, but a lot of it is just I can't ask myself, what do I want? Like, what do I feel like? Because as soon as I do that, then it's like, well, of course I feel like eating chocolate ice cream that's, got sugar in it and stuff, which isn't really going to help me in the long run. I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't want to make a habit of it. Anyhow, since we're talking about junk food, we had some people helping on the house, and so I thought I would grab these for snacks. And it's interesting. I wasn't really tempted, or I wasn't really, you could say, craving these pretzel sticks, which was very interesting. There was one time where I was like, well, I could just taste it to see what it's like. But then it's like, well, sometimes if you just take one bite, then you suddenly develop a taste for it, and you're like, well, that was good. Let's have another one. And then where do you draw the line? So anyways, this ended up being a good snack, something that the guys appreciated eating. Anyway, sometimes it's nice to have something for the guys that were helping around the house with projects, just to be like, thank you for your hard work. Here you go. Speaking of that, it's really, really weird to have like people around, because I get this like really guilty sensation if I'm not doing anything. It's like I need to contribute. I need to be doing something. But the reality is that's not true. Like in the middle of this pregnancy, I got Braxton Hicks. And so because of that, I've been trying to be measured. And so when we have people around, you're doing food, getting drinks, whatever. And then there are times during the day where it's like, okay, I really need to just stop, give my body a break, and just slow down. And then you hear them outside like hammering and banging and doing stuff, and it's like, I'm not contributing. I should be doing something right now. Anyways, it's kind of a weird thing. I don't know if anyone else is like that. I guess it came from growing up in a family where, everybody helped out when it was a work day. You all were supposed to be working, and so maybe it's a subconscious thing. I don't know. I just don't want to be that person that's like sitting, not doing anything. For the frosting for the chocolate cake, I used some frozen strawberries that I just warmed up in the microwave, and then I used fat-free cream cheese. I've kind of come to the conclusion I'm not super fond of it. I'd used it in a brownie cheesecake recipe, and it just seems so fake. So I feel like I'm going to need to stock up on the 1/3 less fat type cream cheese, because it's just, I don't know, this fat-free stuff is just kind of a little too weird for me. I'll have to show you at the end of the video if I can remember to get a clip of the cake. It turned out really, really good. The frosting was really good. The cake was really delicious. It's the perfect thing to have like with an afternoon collagen coffee or something like that. Not super heavy, but at the same time, it didn't leave me feeling hungry, if that makes sense. I've actually started making my own almond milk again, which it kind of has a bit of at least the first day after you make it, there's a lot of maybe more fat at the top, so I try to blend that in. And then I was like, let's make a little coffee here, an afternoon coffee. I've been really thankful to be enjoying those again. Earlier in my pregnancy, I could not stand it, which was pretty sad because that was kind of my go-to for getting protein in the afternoon. If you followed around the channel at all, you know I'm like really big into protein. That's really important to me. I feel a lot better when I get good sources and good amounts of protein, so I try to do that with all my meals and snacks. And here you get to see I made a peanut butter cream pie, which was absolutely delicious. Thankfully, my dad was here to help eat it because I forgot my husband isn't super into cream pie. So I was like, oh, oops. Anyways. I think I've decided I'm just going to bite the bullet and buy another one of those extra long bread pans, because I feel like no matter how much dough I put into my smaller bread pans, they just don't rise like as tall, which It bugs me every time because then I have shorter pieces of sandwich bread, which maybe for some people it wouldn't really bother them, but for me it's kind of annoying. So anyways, I just really love the long bread loaf pan. It works really good. I usually get a pretty good rise out of it. So it's not like it's expensive. I just haven't wanted to spend the money. It's like $15 or something. I just haven't wanted to buy it, like another one of those pans, but maybe I should just go ahead and do it. I don't know. You know, if you're interested in other sourdough recipes, I'll try to remember to link one of my other videos. I have a couple actually just on sourdough where I made a bunch of different sourdough things. So that's something that I really enjoy making and we really enjoy eating. I've learned the hard way. You need to oil and grease. I've learned the hard way. You need to put saran wrap or some sort of cover over the dough as it rises, especially living where we do, because the dough will get trapped. It's like it gets this hard shell. The crust dries out, or the surface of the dough dries out, and then it won't let it rise. And so you've got to keep it kind of moisturized. So anyways, I put a bit of oil on saran wrap and then cover it with that. I have just covered it with saran wrap, and then as the dough rose, it stuck to the saran wrap and it completely ruined the aesthetic look of the top. So I guess if you care about that, then you'd want to put some oil on. But I like to set them out in the back room because that's where it's the warmest area of the house, just to help it rise a little faster, which it still can take kind of a while. I just have to be careful to not forget about it. I've done that a couple times lately. And I'll get the bread going in the morning and then forget about it and be like, oh, I need to shape it. And then I'll be like, oh, I need to get it in the oven. I was thinking, or I guess you could say I wasn't thinking. Next up, I needed to make a cabbage and sausage dinner. This one's very, very simple because you essentially just use sausage meat and cabbage and some seasonings, and that's it. We had it with, I believe, some buttered sourdough bread for a good crossover, but it's very, very simple to make. It tastes even better if you start it earlier in the day and just kind of let it simmer, let it go for a while. It's really good. to making the broccoli, kind of an Amish type salad. I needed to get it going. It's for our church picnic. So does anyone else like to save their bacon grease? I always like to pour it off and use it as grease for like eggs or stuff like that. I also decided this time, why not just go ahead and skip using the aluminum foil? I know it's much easier just to do it on aluminum and then throw that away, but there was part of me that was like, I can scrub a pan, and it actually came off very easy. If anything, I know I've got Barkeeper's Friend, which will help get any like burnt bits off or things that might not want to come off, but it came off really, really, really easy. So anyways. It was interesting. Cutting this purple onion was actually more painful than cutting the regular golden, whatever, that other one that I cut earlier for the cabbage dinner. My eyes, they didn't like water, but they were closer to watering this time than they were with the other one, which was really interesting. I always find if I keep my head high enough, that sounds really hoity-toity, but if I keep my nose up, then it kind of seems to help prevent my tear ducts from releasing liquid when you're cutting onions. I know some people get really dramatic about it and pull out protective glasses or different things, but it seems to help as long as I just keep my head up. Plus, when I wear contacts, I think that kind of helps keep my eyes from really watering and burning from the fumes of the onion. The sauce for this salad is super, super simple. I actually made it a week ago, and I made a smaller version, but then I kind of forgot to half the recipe for the sauce, for the dressing. So I ended up just saving that part that I didn't use, and so I added it to this mix. So it was extra dressing. I had plenty of dressing to go around. I just compiled everything all together. I was missing sunflower seeds. For some reason, I haven't been able to get those at our local Walmart. You know, I should probably order those from Azure. I could just get raw sunflower seeds anyhow. Then once that was done, we threw it in the fridge just to let all the flavors combine and stuff so that it would be super tasty the next day. One thing that we like to do in the summer is have some summer tea. So that's what you saw way earlier in the video. I set out a jar of water with some peppermint tea bags, let it sit out in the sun for a while, and then brought it in, and threw it in the fridge. And it's something that my husband really enjoys drinking, and it's just nice to have on hand. It's super, super refreshing. And yes, for dinner, we all had some of that cabbage sausage soup with some bread, and it was very, very much enjoyed. There was only a little bit left over, which I'm planning on having for lunch one of these days. I keep going back and forth on what to use for scoring the loaves of bread before they go in the oven. Sometimes I use just a really sharp paring knife. Other times, like this time, I tried using this knife slicer thing, but it seems to catch the dough a lot. So maybe I'm just not using the right technique. I don't know. But scoring the top definitely does help it rise. It gives it somewhere to go, the air bubbles, or it gives it the chance to expand so it doesn't like poof out the side or something like that. But it's also partly for looks. I always think it looks pretty nice once you have a whole pan of puffy bread with some nice, slashes across the top. It just makes it look kind of nice in my opinion. And that was how I spent my day baking. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And do let me know in the comments if there was something that was your favorite, something you found interesting, something you want to try, or if you have any tips or suggestions, be sure to leave them there as well. Thanks for hanging out with me, and if you haven't already subscribed, I would love it if you went ahead and did that. And I'll see you guys next week with another video.